Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin. Welcome back to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and wow, has it been a very interesting, exciting, enlightening, eye-opening, reflecting last couple weeks across the direct selling channel. We're coming off our annual DSU Direct Selling University event. That's where DSN hosts what is the largest gathering of direct selling executives and CEOs that happens across our entire channel. I always leave these environments just inspired by the time in the CEO forums where you're getting a chance really to share the candor of what we're all facing as companies and brands across the channel. About 60 of us or so in the room, and then 2 days with individuals in the C-suite and management from, you're talking hundreds of companies across a variety of categories across the world. And always leave these environments just recharged, inspired with a whole new perspective and appreciation for what we do. And I'll tell you that we had some of our former Shift guests on the panel at the DSU event for the very first time in the 20-year history where it's typically an executive audience. We had some amazing field leaders sharing the shifts that you heard first right here on the show with the executive audience. Was an awesome event, and look forward to more of those opportunities to really bring the communities together of both the company and executive audience, as well as the heart, the passion behind the brands, our distributor communities, in an environment that is really trusted, safe, professional, credible, as we navigate and up-level really this channel across the world. A lot of new news breaking across the channel as well. And I'm just reminded of, I guess, two things. One, that we are in a season of shift. And I say that pun intended, but very literally. And as we're navigating this, I'm also reminded of how much I just love what we do in this business and why we do it. And in the midst of all of the innovations and technologies and adapting, I also left the last couple of weeks really reminded that while all of that is true and all of that is relevant, and we have to continue to innovate, to shift, to adapt in order to grow, in order to maximize the opportunity we have today, I'm also reminded that at the core, there are universal truths. At the core, we have foundational elements that we know to be true, the value system that makes what we do us. And I'm reminded that we get reminded of what that core is every week on the show from real leaders giving real training on what's working today. So for all of you that have been on the show that listen, thank you for pouring into all of us and up-leveling all of us. And for all of you plugging in and engaging as listeners of the show, know that this really is a special place, and what you're getting is making a difference in people's lives. The path that you're on and your company and your brand is making an impact out there, and I see a very bright future across our channel, and we're going to keep doing our best to bring you what is working for you to accelerate your own ripple, your own movement as you go out there and share your passion with the world. Outside of all of that, hey, we're here to talk shift summary. Last week, we had a phenomenal power couple. They made me so happy, so energetic. I loved their intensity. We had Doug and Thea Wood here on the show, and an individual that just had such an inspiring real story. They met in ministry school 25 some years ago, married super young, took the leap into traditional entrepreneurship, shared their journey, both the successes and the struggles, and then really had a turning point that came as a dramatic health transformation. Started as health, not even a business thing, not a make money thing. They were already doing really well in a traditional path, but really a health transformation created their awareness to this channel and what direct selling can be. And you fast forward now 15 years, inspired hundreds of thousands of people collectively across the world, authors, leaders, mentors, coaches, an expanding movement growing all across the world. And we got some time away from their family and their team and their businesses with us last week, really sharing their journey as legendary entrepreneurs. And we covered so much on the show. I mean, we really talked about beliefs like we always do, sharing their limiting beliefs that they had to overcome, the keys to the mental barriers holding you back, authenticity. It's a reoccurring conversation, vulnerability, and how to use that to forge deeper connection and inspiration. I love the energy, especially coming from Doug, but Thea as well, on just like decisive action, understanding the importance of like making a commitment and consistent and relentless action, being a catalyst for your own success. We talked a lot about comfort zones and the need to expand them while prioritizing relationships, a people-first mindset. We build people to build our business. And all of this stuff really themes around relationship, around partnership, working as a dynamic couple, both in life and business, the importance of health. So many important themes and topics and nuggets. So if you missed the whole conversation, go back, listen. If you listened once, re-listen. You are getting access to just leadership you don't get this kind of access to anywhere else. So go listen to the whole show. But in our time together, I really want to shine a spotlight on 3 really significant shifts that I got from our time with Doug and Thea. Starting with shift number 1, which I loved. This was really around embracing radical disruption as a pathway to growth. We don't usually hear that word disruption. That has energy to it, doesn't it? In the same context as a positive pathway to growth. But it makes sense. And Doug and Thea sharing their philosophy and knowing that stepping outside of your comfort zone, really seeking or forcing yourself to find new environments, will unlock unparalleled opportunities you would not have found or even been aware are there without that intention. And I love this concept. I've actually never heard it put this way, but I'm going to adopt that, make it my own. How can we use radical disruption of our norm, of our current state, of our comfort zone to facilitate shift and growth in our life and our business? And at the core of this is really just recognizing and embracing a need for change. You know, I was taught by my friend, a peer, a colleague, someone I look up to tremendously. Jay Shetty first shared with me the whole concept that, you know, when you get comfortable, comfort too long leads to complacency. Complacency too long leads to catastrophe or chaos. And we have to constantly make the decision to put ourselves in new environments, to disrupt the environment we are in to get uncomfortable. Because when we're uncomfortable, we're growing, we're learning. And as a matter of fact, that is what Doug and Thea really emphasized, was a constant habit to evaluate their environment and intentionally disrupt their comfort zone, so they don't end up leading to that stagnation feeling. So they remain uncomfortable and in growth mode. And they gave us tools, right? Down to them on their health, signing up for a fitness competition, individuals that really had a personal weight loss journey, not the ones you see in the gym or on the stage or flexing. And they did it. They put themselves out there, right, as a means of disrupting their comfort zone and creating a higher level of consistency and accountability. I love the story they shared of physical relocation, having got to a place where they had the dream house, the property, right, everything that they had on the dream board, but then recognizing the desire to go to a new level, to get uncomfortable again and physically relocating. And that was a trend in their story where they moved to different cities or brand new places or different dwellings to make sure they're constantly challenging their existing environment and creating an uncomfort to allow for growth. This constant evaluation leading to new opportunities. And in doing that, not only does it help us grow, it actually gives a model or a permission to others to do the same, to constantly challenge those following you and your community to also disrupt their own life in order to inspire a whole new level, to welcome a whole new level that could lead to an even brighter future than what we all are living today. So how do we take these key concepts and turn them into like practical actions, a system around this shift? So here's a couple thoughts, 3 to be specific. Number 1, you have to constantly evaluate your environment. Now, your environment is everything in all realms of the definition. It could be your physical environment where you work every day. It can be your personal environment, who surrounds you every single day, your social circle, your peer group. Everything that is around your day-to-day is your environment. And I challenge you, step 1, to evaluate your environment and start to identify some aspects that may be limiting you, that maybe you've gotten too comfortable with, that maybe are too familiar right now. Step 2 is then shift your environment. Now, not everything, everyone, everywhere, all at once, but what aspects can you create disruptive shifts? Not just little shifts, but if we're taking Doug and Thea's advice and their journey, it's disruptive shifts in order to get way outside that comfort zone and force growth and leveling up. And then lastly, continuing to adapt and run that same process over and over and over again so it never gets stagnant. So I challenge you, evaluate right now, make a list. What can you shift, radically disrupt, and make a commitment to continue to adapt? We can make that shift. So the second shift I really loved in looking at Doug and Thea and just how beautifully they work together in life and in business is really around the power of how couples can come together to share goals, and how in doing so can really open the door to a level of accountability that unleashes a larger potential, a larger greatness, a larger, more powerful partnership than they ever could on their own. And I just thought this was such a beautiful story and so real and raw and genuine, the way they even operated together on our conversation. And it really is around key points of shared vision and shared goals. Now, I know this sounds obvious, but you right now, regardless of what role your spouse, right? If you have a spouse, you have a life partner, you have someone you look to, right, for support around you, whoever that person is in your life, are you engaging in shared vision and shared goals, an actual conversation, a unified front on what the we want to achieve? And once you establish a shared goals, really creating an environment where there's a consistency of regular check-ins, constant discussions where there's an openness to talk about the progress and priorities of those goals. I love how Doug and T also shared with us how they have like safe words and agreements they've created around their goals to hold each other accountable, put each other in check. If it's going too far or we're getting off course, like there's a permission and an agreement and language they have harmonized around to help keep each other on track. And then obviously beyond just the progress, celebrating the victories and the wins together and creating this support that really truly does prioritize one another, the betterment of one another, and creates an amazing example, an amazing model for other couples to follow. And they are a great model and example, maybe one of the best I've seen in my conversations in this channel of this shift. So what do we do about it? Well, simply, let's have a little self-reflection on if you are in a partnership, right? A life partnership, you have a spouse, a significant other, a partner, someone close to you. Step number 1 is set some joint goals. Sit down together, discuss and establish clear mutual goals around your business, around your life, your aspirations. Document it. Step 2, schedule, like in your calendar, like this is official stuff. time for regular check-ins on this topic: goals, vision, where we're going. And lastly, establish some accountability practices. Give each other permission to hold each other accountable when you get off course. It's not about guilt. It's not about blame. It's not about, a heavy hand. It's about love. It's about shared desire to bring out the best in one another and being comfortable enough in your relationship to give one another permission to call you out, to keep you in check, to nudge you when you're off track. And having that go both ways is such a beautiful thing for people to grow together. So I think it's something we can all learn from Doug and Tia and that dynamic, and we can make that shift. And the last shift I want to talk about today, and this one hit me hard. And it was a comment that I believe Tia said that went something like, people connect to your pain, not your perfection. When she said that, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. People connect to your pain, not your perfection. And this is a deeper layer of the common theme we've heard from so many amazing leaders on this show. Call it authenticity, call it transparency. It really comes down to how real connection comes through vulnerability, and how people relate more to the genuine experience and the struggles than they do a polished image. It's the power of sharing our pain points, being open. Here's my struggles. Here's my imperfections, right? Here's where I fell. Here's where I messed up. Because people will relate to that, because all of us do. Even if we don't like talking about it, even if we still feel a little funny when we admit it, there is a feeling of trust and safety when all of a sudden we realize, wow, I'm not the only one. And that turns these quote unquote weaknesses, right? These mess ups, like the losses that are on, the scoreboard, into absolute strengths in community and business building when we learn that we can share them with others to create this type of depth of connection. It's an authenticity over perfection. And that's how you inspire, and that's how you impact. And you know what? That's real. It's real. It's real. And this is a shift. I can remember not that long ago where as leaders, we were taught to never flinch, right? As leaders, we were taught to always put on the perfect face. Like that was the norm of quote unquote leadership for so long. And what we're hearing and seeing and feeling and witnessing through the example of the leaders on the show is there is a shift. There is an openness. There is a vulnerability becoming a superpower. And I challenge you, right, to dig in. And here's a framework. I'm going to give you a system. How do we turn this shift into a system that I think you can remember? And I call this the REAL framework, REAL. It's an acronym, right? So how do you be real, right? What's a real framework or system to apply this? Well, R, number one, reflect. Starts with reflection. We can't just go life from thing to thing, from moment to moment, focused on the next without pausing long enough to reflect on what just happened. What are your key struggles in your personal journey? What are the lessons and reflections that you're grabbing from that? Be real, be vulnerable with yourself first, and then write this stuff down. And this is important if you have a memory like mine, because I am future focused and I move on to the next things really fast. And I forgive and forget quicker, right? Maybe than I should sometimes. But you got to write down these experiences, these reflections, these lessons, these shifts, for yourself to learn from moving forward. But they also become an amazing experience share, which leads to number 2, right? Engage. So E, engage, which means engage with your team, with your audience, with your loved ones. Engage with other individuals to share your reflections. And this can be old school, sitting down, having conversations. This can be on your Zooms or in your live events. This could be on social media and short form content today. These are all communication channels that allow you to engage in an authentic way, sharing your journey. A is ask. Because what you're going to find when you start to share your journey, you can ask other people if it resonates, if they relate. And what ends up happening is they end up sharing their relation to your journey. And it may not be the exact same thing, but it may trigger the feeling that they can then go and reflect on their own mess ups, their own mistakes, their own struggles. And then L is leverage. How do we leverage our collective experience, our shared knowledge, all the wounds, all the scars, all the things in a way to lift each other up and move forward toward better? So you can remember that. Real. Reflect, engage, ask, and leverage. That's a real framework, a real system to turn your experiences, right, through authentic sharing into inspiring and empowering movements of people. And here's the good news, like we've all messed up. So we all have things to share. You can do this right now. And I challenge you, make the shift, apply that this week in your calls, in your conversations, in your content, and watch the depth of connection you start to open up by showing up that way. So there's your challenge, inspired by Doug and Thea in our conversation last week. Let's embrace radical disruption as a pathway to growth, make the list, create the change. Let's figure out how together in partnership as couples, we can have a shared vision and shared goals and give permission to help each other move toward those in the spirit of betterment. And let's remind ourselves that people connect to your pain, not your perfection. And dig down and document and reflect and get better at sharing those journeys to inspire and empower others. I hope this conversation hits you this week. You can tell I'm fired up with everything going on in the world right now. And again, I'm grateful for last week with Doug and Thea. Go back and listen, and all of our guests in the past. Now, we're coming up on close to 30 amazing guests celebrating our first year. And there's so much wealth and knowledge. Use it, share it. You can go find all past episodes on the website, shiftpodcast.com, and links to all the places and all the platforms you find most valuable for you. You can listen on Audible or Spotify, watch on YouTube. And again, all of the simple access on the website. And if you haven't yet, go drop by shiftpodcast.com and opt into the newsletter, and we'll give you those email reminders on Mondays, every Monday, new conversation, same place, same time, and helping you make the shifts you need to move toward your vision, your goals, and help all of us continue to raise the tide across the channel. Next week, we have another inspiring guest. Can't wait for you to hear their story, their journey, and their shifts and systems to help you move to your next level. Until Monday, set the alarms. We'll see you there, and let's make the shift.